So George, welcome to NEMMEC Warehouse.
Thank you.
For
First time being here. I love it. This is great. Great place, man.
glad to have you. So with the interviews related to NEMMEC here, we're kind of focusing on beginnings. This is our first event. This is maybe a lot of other people's first competition, and it seems like the good kind of thing to focus on this time. Do you remember what your first model was?
My first model. So we went to the oh God, what was it? We went to see the Mayflower.
Okay.
And this is like early '70s.
Okay.
And we saw it was a cool ship and everything.
Yeah.
And then we went through the what was it? It was like a little shop, like a buy your chi-chi stuff.
Yeah.
And there was a little model
Okay.
of the Mayflower, and I picked that up. And for some crazy reason, I said, "Hey, Dad, can I buy that?" He goes, "Sure, why not?" And I glued it together with Elmer's glue. It looked like crap, but that was the first model. And then a few years later, I started built. This is when you could do mail order.
Okay.
So I started doing a lot more mail order stuff in the mid '70s, and that's kind of it. And then until my high school days,
Cool.
as we all say.
Yeah, yeah. And then do you remember what your first competition model was?
My first competition. So I got back into the hobby just over 5 years ago.
Okay.
And it was ValleyCon back in 2019.
Okay.
And I actually brought it here. It was the pink pommel piece.
Okay.
It was one of the first ones that I brought. And it was sort of like a different thing than what I typically have done. And
Right.
it was kind of cool.
Very cool. And I've got this kind of theory, right, that well, it's not even really a theory at this point. I feel like it's been proven by these other interviews, but every model we build, we find there's at least that one thing that we want to do better next time. Is that thing at least, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're always looking for what the next
Yeah.
thing is and stuff. And especially when you start out, your first model, there's definitely going to be that thing that you want to do better because no one's perfect to start. No one's perfect anyway, but definitely not to
Right.
start. Do you remember what that thing was that you're like, I'm never going to make this mistake again because it was that one that
Oh,
killed
this is
you
a
early
mistake. So I think when it came, like the first one I brought to a competition, that I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, they make the same mistake. No, I think what's interesting is, at least from my perspective, is I remember like even looking at like the Love Sniper #9, thinking, wow, the model looks really good.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm just going to continue to just do this. And I just noticed, oh, the next time I'm working on a model, I'm feeling like, oh, I'm doing things a little differently. Oh, I can do this and make it a little bit better. And looking at the model now, I think it's more I'm looking at it retroactively. I see the stuff that I did wrong.
Okay.
Whereas I probably, even after I finished it, I didn't recognize it. But now that I look at it, I'm like, oh, wow, there's so much stuff that
makes sense. You have more perspective because you're
yeah, I
doing
think
it
it's the
longer.
perspective of being distant, being further along. I think now, having done a lot more judging,
Right.
I'm more critical of my stuff. So even looking at the Spartan,
Yeah.
it's like I see a lot of places where things could have been done better. But immediately after it's done, it usually takes me a little time.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's a different insight than we've gotten so far. So that's good. That makes a lot of sense because, like, I don't know. I go back to karate analogies a lot because I've been doing that for 30
Yep.
years now, and people get discouraged. Like, I'm not making any progress. I haven't seen anything. It's like you don't know until you've made the progress.
Yeah.
Sometimes that you've made the progress. You look back and say, "Oh, I'm way better than I was 6 months ago."
Right.
But you don't know that until you've gotten there because you don't. know
And
how to
I think we
judge it.
attain certain levels. Like for example, like with the Love Sniper, I think it was, like I said, it was a ValleyCon, and I think I got a gold. I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm awesome.
Yeah.
And then you look at it now, and you're like, man, I know I've seen really awesome work
Right.
up close and in person. It's like it's not awesome. So I think we're sometimes, especially with competitions, we're sometimes led down the primrose path of thinking we're really doing well.
Right.
And we do well, but you see what you've done, and you're like, if you pursue this hobby long enough, you do anything long enough, like you said, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, you see how much further along you come, and that perspective is so much different than what you had.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And like you said, like if you got gold in the model early on, the flaw in a first, second, third system is you're judged based on who shows up that day. So,
Exactly.
So if everybody's beginning, you might be the best of a bunch of people that are brand new.
Right.
And that's great. That's awesome. That's encouraging. But you've
Right.
got to keep the perspective of that doesn't mean that you're done.
Oh, absolutely,
Right.
yeah. And I've always been a big believer that you're never done.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you could be doing this for 40 years, 50 years, and you're never done because there's always something new to learn.
Right. Exactly. Cool. Well, again, I really appreciate you putting all the time. You and Nickel both put in a ton of time with all the prep work, all the Zooms and stuff.
Glad to have done it. It's been great. This is a terrific experience. I know you and I have talked about judging this competition.
I'm glad this kind of all kind of came together. So,
Agreed.
so it's awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.